tank of gas. Does he boots on the wood, let the whiskey pass?
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome once again to the FAFO Podcast. And today's guest, I've been looking forward to this one. We booked this one kind of recently and kind of quickly, so I'm very fortunate to have him on today because my guest today has spent a career figuring out why people, teams, and organizations stop working and how to get them moving again. Murray Smith spent 15 years with Victoria Police in Australia, including detective and task force roles before moving into senior leadership, regulatory, and anti-corruption work. Now, along the way, he embarked on a 14-year educational journey that eventually took him to MIT. Today, he's a certified EOS implementer who's worked through more than 450 sessions with over 60 businesses, helping leadership teams replace chaos, confusion, and endless firefighting with accountability and execution. Murray, welcome to the FAFO Podcast, my friend.
Thanks, Chad. Great to be here. It's quite an introduction, mate. So I appreciate it.
Oh no, you're welcome. Thanks for coming on board. This is I'm interested because I know so little about EOS, and I love learning new things. And just the fact that you're in Australia, you started in the police force. Is this what you envisioned when you were a young man doing with your life?
No, not at all. So it's kind of funny how, as you would appreciate, how careers changes along the way. But when I was a young boy, I had absolutely no idea that I'd end up doing what I'm doing today. In fact, it probably goes back to my dad was the chief engineer on the tug service here in the city that I live in Melbourne, Australia. So when I was a young boy, I used to get on the tugs and go up and down the river and help and push the boats in with Dad. I mean, you couldn't do it nowadays because all of the health and safety laws that are around, but it was good fun. But Dad had a lot of time off because it was shift work, and so he started an engineering business in the garage at the family home, like most businesses start, and it grew pretty large pretty quick. And my two brothers got involved in it, but I didn't. And it wasn't because there was some sort of family fallout. It was just that I didn't like having greasy hands and grease under my fingernails, mate, to be honest.
I feel you.
So I thought, no, I'm gonna stay at school, and I finished finished high school, and I got accepted into what you would call college. We call it university, and but I got accepted into chemical engineering, and I was in that course for about 2 months, and I thought to myself, hang on, I'm just going to end up on oil rigs with greasy hands. Why am I doing this? So I went home and I told Mum I was going to drop out of university, and she looked at me and she said, well, you can do that if you want, but you better get a job. So I ended up getting a couple of menial jobs, but I ended up in Victoria Police, and I didn't look back from there in terms of, I thought that was going to be it for my life. I loved it. It was great fun. Didn't even know what day I got paid. It was like having a ringside seat to the circus of life. It was, but I was in a really bad car accident in my second year at work, and I was off work for 6 months, and I thought, well, what am I going to do if I can't do this? I've got no qualifications, and that's where the study started. So I started studying part-time, and I did an undergraduate, did a Bachelor of Arts, and then I did a Masters of Human Resource Management and Industrial Relations. And as I went on that journey, I was doing some great things in Victoria Police, and I still thought that I'd be in for life in Victoria Police, and just using all these skills that I was learning. And then I was finding out that the opportunities to use those skills were a bit limited. So I then just took on those roles that you mentioned, where I was restructuring or helping set up organizations. And that was a lot of fun, but I'm not sure if you're aware of this, and I'm not sure if it occurs in the United States. I'm pretty sure it does, but public administration is not particularly action orientated.
No, it is not. You are correct, sir.
I assume that might be a universal thing. So I was getting a bit frustrated with that. And so I wanted to learn or work out whether I could hack studying overseas. Overseas for me would be coming to America. So I did an executive program at Harvard University, and I worked out that I could do this. I could study overseas in terms of I had the capability. So when I returned to Australia, I applied to go back to Harvard and MIT, And I had the first world problem is I got accepted into MIT and I got accepted into Harvard, and I had to decide which one I went to. So I know you're feeling sorry for me now, Chad, but please don't.
Yeah, I feel your pain, buddy.
No, I joke about that, but I'm completely aware of the privilege that is, and I'm very grateful that I was able to put together an application that meant that both of those places were interested. But in any case, I chose MIT, and you know, the reason for your podcast is kind of like, you know, I wanted to push myself. I wanted to try things that were hard, and that's why I chose MIT, and I did my MBA there.
Wow.
And it was hard, and because we pretty much up stumps and left Australia and lived in Boston while I completed that MBA. So, you know, there was a bit going on, but I did well. I got through the program and it was fantastic. It was a cornerstone of my life, and I'm always very grateful for having attended that incredible institution. And then when I returned to Australia, it was all about interim executive roles. And again, it was kind of, this is okay, but it's not really my jam. I've got all these skills and capabilities. And a friend of mine handed me a book called Traction, which is written by Gino Wickman, which all sits around EOS. It pretty much explains it. And he said, I think you should be an EOS implementer. And I read the book. It resonated with me clearly, and I've been doing it ever since, which was at late 2018. And so that's the journey, and how through that journey, you know, the thread, if you like, is what I'm doing now is I'm helping people, but just in a different way than when I first helped them when I was in Victoria Police. You know, like there it was very much reactive, responding to people in crisis, and now it's kind of different and the same. Like there's still crisis in some respects in the business, and I'm helping them fix that, but I'm trying to do that in a proactive way and make permanent positive change in their business, which has been a great journey, and it's very enjoyable. But no, long answer to your short question. I did not expect to be doing this.
Well, let me ask you, because I do not know, because I'm an idiot. I'm just going to tell you I'm an idiot, which you probably deciphered already from the face and what's behind me. So
no, just before you say anything more, I do say to people, the only stupid question is the one you don't ask.
So I'm a pretty stupid person, because I'm probably not going to ask a lot of those. But seriously,
but yeah, so ask all the questions. That just makes you smart, right? You're prepared to ask the question.
Yeah, and I do agree. So for the uninformed, what exactly is a certified EOS implementer? What is EOS?
Yeah, so EOS is the entrepreneurial operating system. It's actually a business management practice that comes out of Detroit.
Oh, okay.
And it started in Detroit some 20, 25 years ago now. And it's just about getting people to focus on 6 key components of their business. And if they do that, and giving them the tools to execute on those components, and if they do that, they'll have a great business. But it requires them to lean in, and to your introduction there, it requires leadership teams to actually go into places they previously haven't gone, or may not have gone, or didn't have the ability to go to. So those 6 key components is vision. Everyone's got to be 100% on the same page right across the business, not just the leadership team. People, you've got to have the right people in the right seats, or it's not going to happen. Data, measure your business off the numbers, not gut feel. Issues, have a way in which to solve issues, which is a framework to do that, so that you can set them up and knock them down so they go away forever. And then it's about process. Document your process so you can give your customers but your employees consistency. And then finally, traction, have a cadence and have priorities that you're driving to, and make sure you're checking in on them regularly. If you do those 6 things, then it's most likely that your business will get to where it wants to go to. But it's simple, but not easy. It requires commitment. And so that's EOS in a nutshell. And it'll give you vision, traction, and healthy at the end of that. Vision being, like I said, everyone's 100% on the same page. Traction, you'll see everyone executing and be accountable for what your vision is across the business. And healthy is the leadership team will be having the conversations they should be having rather than dancing around them.
Oh, I love that. So there must be a lot of problem solving involved in this.
Yeah, there is. And that's where the issues come in. And the problem solving, the first point is getting everyone on the same page and, you know, giving them the tools to actually execute. So when you say problem solving, the biggest problem is most people aren't aligned. They might be, you know, 99% aligned, or they might be very far apart, who knows. But even if they're 99% aligned, they're still not aligned. So, and to think about that in an analogy, Chad, think about this. If you had two boats and one was tracking at 359 degrees and the other one was tracking at 360, over time they're going to separate because there's a 1 degree difference, and that difference will just get bigger and bigger as they go on their path. And that's why we say 100% aligned.
Oh, I love that. Because, and here's kind of the thing for I think especially when you're doing business and you go into these businesses, people are so set in how they've done things, even if it's failing, that a lot of times changes can be difficult. How do you handle that when you go in and work with these businesses?
Yeah, so change is hard. There's a set program that we follow to introduce people to EOS and actually get them executing on it. What I do like to tell people before I start is I'm not going to ask them to do any more work. What I'm going to ask them to do is do the same work they're doing now, but just do it differently. So we don't increase the volume of work. We just say, is this really what you want to do and what that is? But the change process is about firstly giving them the tools to execute first. So it's traction first, vision second. I often say, I don't really care what your vision for your business is. If you can't execute on this, it's not going to happen no matter what your vision is. So the change process starts with giving them the tools to be able to execute on the business. Once they've got the tools and they can see those tools working, then we can say, okay, now that you know that you've got the tools to execute, what is it that you truly want to be? And then we start doing the vision building and build out where they want to take this business and how they're going to get everyone on the same bus. From there, then it's about just going into a 90-day world and pulsing every 90 days to set those quarterly goals, to make sure they're driving towards their 1-year plan, their 3-year picture, and where they want to be in the long term, and really integrating all that into what they do. So when they can see where they want to take the business and they all agree to that, and they've got the tools to execute and they're actually executing, that change process becomes easier because then they stop talking about those surface level issues and they start talking about the issues that are really stopping the business.
Oh yeah. And accountability is such a huge factor in being successful. And how do you handle a situation where you've got most of your team, 99% are on the same page, and you've got the one person, they know this one person is not doing their job. But the problem is that management and leadership refuses to address it. How do you address that to these businesses?
Yeah, so it actually becomes easier because we give them a framework to do that. So if you think about when I mentioned about giving them the tools to execute, one of the tools that we implement is a thing called an accountability chart. So rather than, if you imagine in your mind for a moment an organizational chart, they're pretty useless in terms of they tell you who sits where, but imagine an accountability chart where it listed, rather than director of sales, it just listed the function of sales. And then under that, it lists what are the top 5 accountabilities for that sales function. And it might be lead closure, account management. It might be sales pipeline management. It might be processes and lead the sales team, right?
Yeah.
So therefore, and so that's really clear about what they're accountable for. And then there might be a sales team underneath them, and you do the same process until every sort of box in the business has the 5 accountabilities in it. And so when you slot someone into a function that says, here's your job and here's the top 5 accountabilities we want you to deliver to, it becomes really clear to them as to what they're accountable for. And so what that means is nobody's looking at position descriptions. I mean, who does? I mean,
exactly.
In my career, when I looked at a position description when I was going for the job and maybe when I signed the contract, that's it. And so nobody's looking at that. But if I said to you, here are the top 5 accountabilities that you need to do in your job, and if you do this, we're golden, then it becomes a lot easier. To give you a really quick example, I gave a talk to a bunch of farmers a number of months ago now, but this same question came up and I said, who's the biggest problem on your farm? And they said, sheep shearers. Not surprising here in Australia, right? But,
there you go.
And I said, okay, well, what do you reckon the top 5 functions of a sheep shearer would be? And they said, well, they need to turn up on time because generally they don't. And I said, right. They need to keep the beer fridge full. Okay. They need to keep their equipment in good order. They need to shear the sheep and keep the sheds clean. I said, all right, so try this out. Next time one of them turns up, say, here's the top 5 things I want you to do. Turn up on time, keep the beer fridge full, keep your equipment in good order, shear the sheep, keep the sheds clean. That's all I want you to do. It's pretty easy to remember, isn't it?
Yep.
So that's how you make accountability stick, because everyone knows who's holding the ball. So, and that way that happens. And then in terms of layered upon that is the core values. So when you set your vision, you set the behaviors you want to see in your business. So, we've all seen values like professionalism and integrity and all that sort of rubbish. Well, that's surface level rubbish.
Yeah.
We want the core values of the business beyond that. Like, what do we truly value in this business? And it might, like, there's a business I work with, and one of their core values is until the wheels fall off. In other words, we're going to do everything we possibly can for the customer until the wheels fall off. So that's their core value. So that's how they measure whether or not someone's a problem in the business, to your point about accountability and whether they're not doing the right thing. They can go to them and say, here's your accountabilities. Are you living up to that? Here's our values. And one of them might be until your wheels fall off. We're not seeing that from you. What do we need to do to change that? Rather than, as you say, when there's that one person that's not, and no one wants to talk to them because they've got no way to actually talk to them about what's going on. This gives them the ability to do that. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah, it makes plenty of sense.
Yeah, yeah. And then the final thing you add on that is numbers, right? The data component is you give everyone a number to hit, and say you hit these numbers, you hit these accountabilities, and you show these core values. We're right to go. That's what winning looks like.
Yeah, that's 100% correct. Now, I've come from the business management world before just exasperation forced me to leave it all behind, and the fact I didn't want to die because my doctor said I was going to have a stroke because of how pissed off I would get every time.
Yeah.
Because people are hard to deal with especially when you're a manager and you're over a set of people. And you're trying to create a positive work atmosphere and lift everybody up, but it seems harder and harder these days to get people to buy into or just to show up for work, going back to the sheep shearing.
Yeah.
It's a difficult thing. But how long should you work with someone who's struggling before admitting that, hey, this person maybe is just the wrong person for the job?
Yeah, so if you got wrong person, wrong seat, it's in my world and your world in the United States, it's the 3 strikes policy. The first time is, what can we do to help you get to where you need to be through the discussion about accountabilities, numbers, and values. The second conversation should be, you're not really displaying that. Here's what I need you to do. And if there's a third conversation, it's like, we're not a fit here. Here's all the reasons we're not. We've gone through a process. Time to go. And that doesn't mean they're a bad person, just means they're not suited to your organization. So you're actually being cruel by holding on to them.
Well, that's true.
Because if you think about it, if you reckon you're not enjoying them being there, what do you reckon? Do you reckon they're enjoying being in your workplace? Probably not. So do everyone the favor, and including them, and release them from the pain.
And that's true.
And your pain.
Yeah, because there's just a flip side to that. Like when you are in management and then you have upper management, and that's flipped. So, and it's upper management who just may be so lackadaisical and incompetent.
Yeah.
That they're giving you bad information and bad leadership. That's a whole different thing. I'm trying to battle that. Is there a way you guys handle that?
Yeah, well, see, what that would look like is if upper management aren't really pulling their weight, then when we talk about leadership teams and having healthy conversations, those conversations need to be happening at the leadership team, like peer-to-peer accountability.
Yeah.
Like there's no point waiting for, if you're in the, what we'll call the C-suite, if you like, and you're waiting for the CEO or the president to drop the hammer, then you've got an unhealthy business. Because really, if you're in sales and I'm in operations and you're getting all these sales in, but I'm not doing my job, and you're getting all the calls from the customers saying, you promised me this, Chad, and Murray's not doing it, right? I'm making your job harder.
Yep.
So you should be saying, Murray, what are you doing? I'm getting all these calls that are telling me you're not doing the job. You're making my life hard. You're not living up to the values, nor are you living up to the accountabilities. And look at our scorecard. It's out the back door. This is not how we run. But if we're waiting for the CEO to do that, we've got a problem.
Yes. Yeah, and that's 100%. Me and a few of my bosses did not get along at a particular company that shall not be named. But when like I had a direct supervisor give me some very bad advice that I knew was incorrect.
Yeah.
Because I get the same memos they get or got at the time. So I went ahead and I was doing the thing, and she comes in and says, "No, that's not how this goes. I wanted this all right there." I'm like, "Well, that's not proper. Here's what they said." She said, "I don't care. This is where it is." Well, her boss comes in, and her boss asked me and her together, "Why is this sitting here like this?" And she said, "I don't know why that is." I said, "You don't know why that is?" "Well, you told me to go here, and the memo said it's not supposed to. You said put it here anyway." And she did not expect me to say that to her boss with her standing there.
Yeah.
So how does that work? I mean, if you're trying to get people to stand up, because I'm not someone who can just sit there and say, "I'm about to eat this for somebody else," when they're wrong.
Yeah. Not everyone's got that courage, right? So that's a difficult one to navigate. However, this is what I talk about when we're talking about values alignment.
Mm-hmm.
I will bet that what that manager asked you to do was not aligned to the values of the business, nor yours.
Oh, correct.
So the conversation could be embedded in a values conversation rather than the he said, she said conversation of, "Oh, you told me to do this." Say, "Well, hang on. This task is not aligned to the values of this organization. This is what the values are. Here's the value I don't think it's aligned to. Here's my accountabilities. None of this aligns to that. Here's my numbers. None of this aligns to that." And that's a very sort of objective way to have a discussion about a subjective matter. But it still requires the organization to allow someone to have a voice. And with that, where that works with EOS is on the issues list. The fourth component is about listing issues. If we truly want to be great, then we're prepared to take issues from anywhere in the business, and they'll always have a place to raise that issue. And so there's a number of avenues with EOS to allow that to occur. Having said that, I will bet the task that she was asking you to do was designed to avoid the numbers, or the numbers had probably revealed something she wasn't doing, and she was trying to cover that up. So the data will also reveal the activity.
Yeah. So absolutely.
There's lots of ways to demonstrate that without making it about you, if that makes sense.
No, and it does. And it's you see a lot of this a lot of times, I think, because they're organizations that they can become dysfunctional. And sometimes it's because bad people take over, or sometimes because good people tolerate these bad systems.
Correct.
It's got to be. Is it one or the other, or is it a little bit of both sometimes?
It's both. And what I would say is, with the right structure, both can be overcome. So what I mean by that, and I'm sure your listeners are going, "Oh, this sounds like utopia. It doesn't exist." It does exist. And there's 33,000 businesses around the world that are living that, either having implemented with the business or are implementing with the business, and they're using it, and they're actually seeing what you've seen play out. But the point is, why it's not dealt with is not because people don't want to deal with it. They just don't have a way to deal with it. And this is the point about structure and frameworks. I don't care what framework you use. You can use EOS if you want, or you can use any other business framework out there. Just have a structure that allows you to address these issues, because that's the problem. It's not that you've got highly skilled people in organizations in various positions, and they're just going, "I don't want to deal with this because I just don't know how to navigate my way through this."
Yeah, that happens a lot.
Now, what if for a moment you did have a structure that allowed you to deal with it? It doesn't mean that it's going to feel any better, but what if you did have a structure to deal with it?
You would feel supported.
You're going to do it.
Absolutely.
And so, and often when businesses I work with, and I'm sure all around the world, it's the same with implementing EOS, is that they'll have this hand-wringing moment where, I don't want to deal with Murray. His problem, this is going, and it's like, does this And I will always say to the businesses, does this not feel good? And they go, no, this feels terrible. And I always say, well, good. And they go, what do you mean? I said, do it anyway, because that is what separates great from good.
Yes, 100%.
Right?
Yeah.
It's the ones that are prepared to do it. So, and when they do it and when they execute through the structure, the next time I see them, they'll say, yeah, we solved that issue. Murray's no longer with us. I say, oh, how do you feel now? And they say, yeah, pretty good. Yeah, it feels a lot. I'm relieved. They always say, like, this weight's lifted off me. And I said, well, why did you wait so long? And equally, they can't really explain that apart from their own sort of apprehension in dealing with it. I said, how long did it take? And they said, well, maybe a month or something to have the first conversation, and then they've decided to leave or whatever the case may be. I said, how long have you been talking about this as a leadership team? And they'll say, oh, about 6 months. I said, as a leadership team, how many hours did you do that for? And they said, whatever. And then you can put a dollar figure against it. And then they'll say, yeah.
It's amazing what happens when you show them the loss in real time in dollars.
Yeah. So it helps with that. And the other thing I'd ask your listeners to think about is, if you're prepared or you don't want to deal with that person, and this is what I do with businesses I work with, I just say, we've been talking about this person for a while, haven't we? And they go, yep. So, okay. So it sounds like to me you've made a decision to keep them because you haven't actually done anything about it. So is that your decision? And they go, no. I said, no, it sounds like it is. So let's get out your budget for the next financial year, and let's change that now. Let's bring the revenue and profit down, because that's the decision you're making today. So how much do you want to take that down by? What 100 grand? Do you want to take 100 grand off your revenue and what a percentage point off your profit? You want to do that today? And then they'll just go, oh, no, I don't want to do that. It's kind of like, well, then we should do something about this today, because that's what it's costing you.
Yes. And it's amazing how that's a lot of times when you're talking about a hammer and a nail, sometimes you just got to bring out the big hammer.
Yeah.
and pound that home.
Yeah. And it doesn't mean you have to be rude about it
or
disrespectful. It just means you have to point out the objective facts of where you find yourself. And as I said, it doesn't make them a bad person. They're just not suited to your organization. And that's okay. Do the right thing. Get them into a role where they are enjoying their work. And guess what? That's probably not in your business. Fine.
Yep. And that's very, very true. And I couldn't agree more with that. So I want to ask you something. I was reading about this, and I thought this was interesting because you mentioned MIT.
Yeah.
So
that's dangerous.
Oh my God. So since I can't even, my brain cells won't even allow me to drive by that place, much less attend it. I read that y'all had this problem y'all were working through, or something. There was I think it was HubSpot co-founder Brian Halligan.
Yeah, Brian Halligan. Yeah. He did the same course as me, not in the same year, but he did the same course. Yeah.
So you had former CEO Alan, I wrote this down, Mulally, and Apollo 13 commander, Jim Lovell, who is a hero. I love Jim Lovell. Yeah,
so Jim Lovell, he actually he didn't go to MIT, but he came and spoke to us, and he was. I know he's passed away now, but he was such. Like, I was on the edge of my seat listening to that guy talk. He was just unbelievable. The way he spoke about how to manage in a crisis.
I mean, that's like the ultimate case study right there, isn't it?
Yeah. It was the way it was like, and short story about Jim. And I don't think that, I'm pretty sure this wasn't in the film that they made about his adventure in Apollo 13. But at one point, NASA said to them, Jim, we don't think you're going to make it back. And I thought, wow, I wonder what he said to that. And then he said, and this is what I said back to them. Well, gee, thanks. Can we keep working on the problem anyway? And that's all he said.
Jeez. Oh my God, that's crazy.
Like, it was just like,
imagine hearing that.
Yeah, he just acknowledged their view and then thought, well, let's try anyway.
That's an insane mindset to have, to go, you know what, I hear what you're saying. But we're coming home. We just gotta figure this out.
We're 200,000 miles from home, but we'll have a crack anyway. I mean, the point is he didn't have any other option, but it was like, it could have easily been, oh, okay, well, resign myself to my fate.
Yeah.
But no.
I think that's one of the things when I hear people talk about the fake moon landing and why it enrages me so much. And I probably should get mad about it because ignorance is what it is. And that's fine, or a personal belief. I wouldn't even say ignorance, but however you choose to believe. But it's when people like Jim Lovell, if you're saying that, then you're disqualifying everything that they went through.
Yeah.
And I think that's such a tragedy.
Yeah. I would say though, Chad, you've only got so much energy in this world, so maybe don't waste it on those people and do something.
Let me tell you, this is why the FAFO podcast exists.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah, exactly right.
I needed an outlet.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah. So anyway, I've just derailed your question. Sorry.
No. I just thought it was fascinating that you got to hear that, and it really is. When we're talking about problem solving, that it is amazing what they did to get home.
Yeah. Well, then if you add to that, he tells the story about re-entry into the Earth's atmosphere, and they did that manually, not with computers.
Yeah.
And they had a 1 degree window to get it right. So if they got it wrong, they would either burn up or bounce off the atmosphere. And so the question came like, how did you do that? He said, well, we've been test pilots for all our life. That's what we do. We go for those windows of opportunity. And again, it was just like, man, how can you even describe that? And it's like, and if you ever hear Tom Hanks talk about the movie and about, there's a scene in it where they're all, really upset, and like it was when they were making a burn to get the module back on the right.
Oh trajectory. Yeah.
And it's like, oh, we're losing control. I've got control. And in the movie, it's like that. But in real life, it was like they would say, okay, go for burn, and then about 3 seconds later, it came back, burn complete. And that was it.
Yeah, which is wild.
It's just wild that they were so controlled. And so we just worked through the problems. And as he says, and it's probably great for business too, and to your listeners is, how did you do that was the question. He said, well, we just worked the problem. Once we solved that problem, we moved on to the next problem. Solve that problem, move on to the next one. And the point is about momentum. The point is, don't worry about what you've just solved, what the problem was in the past. You've solved that, move on, get to the next one. What's the problem now? Okay, let's work our way through this. Solved. All right, let's move on to the next one. Just continually problem solve. And if there's something to learn from Apollo 13 and what Jim was saying, well, there's lots, but one of the things was just work the problem.
That is, and that's so true. That is such a good lesson for everybody, really, in every kind of facet of your life, to be honest.
Yeah. So, this is why I say I'm so grateful to have been able to go to a place like that. There is no way in my wildest dreams that some bloke from Australia would end up in a lecture room with Jim Lovell like that. And I'm sure he did at some point, but if he was going to come out to Australia, it would be a $1,000 ticket event. It'd be, when he was alive, it would have been a $1,000 ticket event. There would have been hundreds of people there. And here I am sitting in a classroom at MIT with about 60 other students just sitting there listening to this guy talk. And at the time I was thinking, how did I end up here?
Oh, yeah, really.
And so anyway, as I say, I'm very grateful I had that opportunity.
Well, let's talk about the founder problem, because this is a big issue as well. To where, especially if you're an entrepreneur, you started this business, and you're the person who built this company, but that can also be the same person who prevents that company from growing.
Correct.
Is it often that the founder is the problem?
Yes. Well, yes and no. Yes, in terms of they are so brilliant. When you think about a founder, you think about someone who's had the courage to say, I want to set up a business and I want to solve this problem, and I want to do the best job I possibly can. So that takes a lot of guts to start with, to actually make that step. So we should never dismiss the value that founders bring to our lives broadly, but also understand that those very skills that allows them to do that is also the things that could hold the business back.
Yeah.
And why is that? Because there's lots of things at play, right? So they've generally done everything in the business anyway. So at some point they were the sales and marketing person, they were the operations person, they were the finance person, and they were the long-term visionary thinker about where we were taking this thing. So to let go is hard. And the only way we can possibly allow founders to let go is give them the confidence that everything's going to be okay. And there's something in place that allows them to see that their business will be fine. So what does that come to? It comes to give them the confidence through structure, through process, through numbers, through a clear vision of where the business is going, for which they've had significant input. And then it's more likely that they want to let go. And also have someone to support them along that journey, because founders are great at looking ahead and thinking about the next ideas. They're not so great about the technical detail about, the running of the business.
Mm-hmm.
They're very good at the technical detail of whatever the product is, but running a business is a different set of skill set than actually coming up with a technical solution to a problem.
It really is.
And so when I say support, founders or visionaries rarely make a good person that can do the day-to-day operational execution of stuff. So what we call, or what I call in EOS, the integrator,
Mm-hmm.
the person that worries about the day-to-day operations, that is the most crucial role that a founder can find. That too I see, that person that can assist them and back them in terms of getting the execution done while they're thinking about what's next. So that's how we can help founders let go, is giving them the confidence by putting the right structures in place and by putting the right people in to support them. And I say too, I see, and I shouldn't really say that, what they are is they are the yin to the yang of the visionary.
Yeah.
Someone's come up with great ideas, but somebody needs to execute those ideas. And rarely is it the same person that can do that. So we really need that match, if you like, that can really drive that forward. So, if you think about all the great businesses in history, you'll find there was someone behind the curtains doing that.
100%.
You think about so if I say Apple to you,
Mm-hmm.
no doubt you think about Steve Jobs.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Because he's the figurehead of that whole thing.
Yeah. But not Wozniak.
Nope. Yeah. Nobody ever talks about him.
But he was there.
Yep.
And he's your integrator. Right.
Absolutely.
And you can look at big businesses right through history, and you'll find those sort of people sitting there in the background. They don't want to be taking the limelight. They just want to execute. And they're there. And so if history can teach us anything, it's that.
Yeah, I agree. Wayne, why do you think it is that you have so many leaders who are kind of terrible at delegation? Like, they have this mindset like, nobody can do it as well as I can. Nobody understands it like I do. And they can't let go and say, hey, I hired you for this job, so just do that job.
Go and do it.
I'm going to let you do it.
Yeah. So it's not a disparaging thing to say, because it's the truth. It's about the ability to let go. And why can't people let go? Because their identity is wrapped up in whatever they're doing. So in other words, their ego is getting in the way. So if you said to someone who has an awesome business and they love it, and you give them the option to say, do you really want to be here 100 hours a week, frustrated, or would you prefer to have some time off and collecting the dividends? I'm yet to meet anyone that says, no, I want to be here 100 hours a week. I want to be frustrated. I want to be completely, I want this to completely consume my life.
Right.
There might be a few people like that, but they're probably called psychopaths.
Yeah, I would agree. That's true. That's true.
But most people want to live their life. And it's not that they don't want to contribute. It's they want to contribute well.
Yeah.
I would contend that you can't contribute well if you're completely burning the candle and you're so burnt out that everything frustrates you and you won't let go. I mean, ultimately, it comes down to, if you don't want structure in your business, then fine, run it the way you just described. That's okay. That's a choice if you want that choice. But by the way, go and change all your position descriptions and who you employ, because what you really want is 100 minions.
That's correct. Yes.
You don't really want 100 people that bring value to your organization. And again, that's okay. That's your call, but it's a trade-off, right?
Yeah, very, very true.
So, you trade it off. If you want whatever you want in life, you can have. You just, if in terms of business, I'm not going to suggest that more broadly in life, but certainly in business, you can have what you want if you're prepared to do the work and if you're prepared to go where you haven't previously gone. If you think you're going to grow a business to an even bigger business, yeah, great. And you might get there, but geez, it'll be hard work. And it's always going to be hard work, but what hard work do you want to do? Do you want to do the hard work that helps you grow and be great? Or do you want to do the hard work that just keeps the lights on?
Exactly. And it's funny because, these corporations have these words like integrity, excellence, innovation, teamwork. How much of that is utter bullshit?
Yeah.
And then what makes a company value real?
Yeah. So we lean on, when we set core values for a business, we lean on an article written by Pat Lencioni about make your values mean something. So all those things you described are permission to play. In other words, when people suggest that that's their core values to me, I'll say, oh, right. So you want people to value professionalism, integrity, and things like that in your business. Is that right? And they go, yeah. And respect's another ripper. You see that a lot. So integrity, professionalism, respect. You see them all the time. And it's like, okay, so let me ask you this. Are you going to hire someone who doesn't have respect? Are you going to hire someone who's not professional? And are you going to hire someone who doesn't have integrity? And they said, well, of course not. And I said, well, that's not a core value. That's just permission to play. That's the baseline before you walk in the door, man. Like, don't worry about that as a core value. Let's go deeper than that. What do you truly value beyond that? Because if people aren't respectful or they're not professional or they don't have integrity, I mean, really?
Yeah.
That's kind of like a human behavior you expect in the workplace, not a value. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Oh, heck yeah.
Yeah. So that's I'm not a fan of seeing those sort of values in organizations. If people want them, okay, that's fine. I just don't see the value in that. I think it needs to be much deeper, something that you truly value.
I think so too. Like that's almost like trying to field a football team. You're going, look, I need integrity on this team. I need teamwork. Yeah. But really what you're looking at is how fast can you run a 40-yard dash? I need to know, can you catch a football? We're talking about American football.
No. So what that would look like in my world, Chad, is that's not about professionalism, all that. That's about commitment.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yep.
Which is deeper than professionalism. It's like, are we committed to delivering this?
Yes.
And that's very different. So there'll be some way to describe what you described about how fast you can run. What are you prepared to do to get to that time over 40 yards? Are you prepared to do the work?
Yep.
All those sorts of things. Like there's plenty of examples of coaches in in college football, and so like I always like listening to Nick Saban and what he had to say when he was coaching Alabama. And some of the things that he said about illusion of choice and all those sorts of things about, you think you've got choices to make. If you want to be great, you really don't. It takes what it takes. So just do the work. And that's much deeper than professionalism and commitment. Could you imagine if Nick Saban for 20 years came out and said, we just want people to be professional?
Oh God. Yeah. He'd never win anything.
He never said that. He always went much deeper than that. Even when the players were in trouble, when he was saying, well, what do you want me to do? Do you want me to kick them out on the street? Or do you want me to try to make them the best they can, whatever it is? There's plenty of things that he spoke about that were, and that his pre-seasons were all about getting the right people on the bus. And so all those things go much deeper than professionalism, integrity. And I suspect if you ever spoke to him, he would say, yeah, it's much deeper than professionalism, integrity, and respect. It would be much deeper for him too, I suspect.
Yeah, I agree. All right, so I got to ask you this. We're going to do a kind of an entrepreneurial FAFO.
Yeah.
What is the biggest FAFO lesson you've seen a business owner learn?
Yeah. Not leaning into the EOS process. Right?
Yeah.
Because they sit there and say they want it, and then when it happens, because it's hard, and then they go, yeah, I want to do it, and then they do it, go, oh, this is too hard. And it, like you say, that's FAFO, right?
Yep, absolutely it is.
And equally, the other thing is just putting up with the bad behavior that exists because they think, and they do FO this, is when they put up with the hype, like the sales guy that's bringing in a heap of sales, but they're completely toxic.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, God, yeah.
And whether they're in sales or operations or finance, doesn't matter. But they say, oh, geez, they bring the numbers in. And I go, yeah, they do, don't they? And they're FAing around that person. And then when they find out that actually there's 10 other people that aren't working in this business because that person is so toxic, they're damaging everyone else, and you say to them, how much value are they leaving on the table, when it well exceeds what that person's bringing in, then they find out, don't they?
They really do.
So they're the two that I would say, A, when they don't really want to lean into the process, the EOS process, and two, when they put up with bad behavior and they think it's okay.
I agree. Do you think leadership has become harder in 2026?
It's funny, when people talk about leadership, I always think, no, the problem with the discussions around leadership today is we discount the concept of management. So in my view, leadership's really important. We need to set the vision. We need to be able to say, this is where we're going, this is how we're going to get there, and get people to understand what that looks like and encourage them to come with us. But we also need management in there to set the expectations, to monitor the accountability, to set that number and do all the management stuff that's not really cool. So I think in terms of being harder today in 2026, what I'm actually seeing is there's more and more emphasis on leadership and less emphasis on management, and the two are jointly needed to have a great business. So, we can set the vision, but are we prepared to hold people to account to it? Nah, sometimes. Yeah. So that's when the management stuff kicks in. So it's really important to sort of understand leadership from the context of, if all you're doing is leadership, well, you really just, and you don't have followers that understand what you're doing and how you're going to get there, you're really just someone out for a stroll. Yeah. No one's going to follow you, right? Yeah. So in my view, it's leadership is becoming more difficult because people are not paying due attention to the other aspect of, or the other side of the coin of leadership, which is management. And I'm not suggesting for a moment that leadership is not important. It clearly is.
Yes.
I'm just saying there's the level of depth of understanding of what actually sits behind that, I think, is becoming has less and less of a voice because it's hard to do, and it's all hard to do.
It is hard to do, and especially because now it's all about feelings. And that's not a political statement. I'm just saying, because what's the first thing somebody yells? Well, you hurt my feelings. That's the first thing you hear nowadays. I'm well, I'm sorry I hurt your feelings, but I asked you to do a project. I need this project done. Yeah. Well, I just had a rough night last night, and I'm like, for the last 32 nights, I mean, how many rough nights can you have before you do your job? So and now you're the one under the gun for saying something about that. Is that Is that a top leadership problem or a cultural problem at the top?
So if we play that scenario out, like, oh, you hurt my feelings and all that sort of stuff, that all might be true. And it's like, okay, if we don't have a way in which to have a conversation that matters, then that's exactly how that conversation will play out. As this sort of big bowl of spaghetti, it's like, someone walks out, disappointed that, their manager thinks they're not working with them well. And the manager's sitting there thinking, they just don't get it. They're just not performing, right?
Yeah.
And I understand how businesses get to that stage. And I would say, now let's play that out in a business that's running on EOS. And firstly, there would be weekly level 10 meetings where the teams would get together, and there'd be a structured way in which to monitor and address the progress of priorities in the business. And there would also be time to discuss the issues that need to be addressed. So that would be happening weekly. So firstly, it wouldn't be 30 odd days into the project that we would find out. It would be day 5.
Yeah.
And then the second part to that is, even if that was occurring in a company running on EOS, your discussion wouldn't look like that, because we would have core values to rely back on that we can actually use and monitor and measure and say, listen, Chad, one of our core values here is get it done. And this is what get it done means. And during this project, I was seeing at least 3 times where you haven't been living up to that value. And here's the examples of that. Because to actually come to that conclusion, you have to think of some example, don't you?
Yeah, you sure do.
So you'd be talking about that. And then you'd be talking about, hey, Chad, one of your accountabilities here is project management. And this is well within the realms of project management. And that's one of your accountabilities. What's going on? What's that about? It's a very different conversation to you hurt, and they say, oh, well, you hurt my feelings. I say, well, I'm actually not talking about your feelings. I'm actually talking about your accountabilities and the core values of this organization.
Yeah. Yeah. And that completely changes it.
Yeah. So it doesn't mean that you shouldn't acknowledge it. Like, yeah, well, okay. Like you say, I'm sorry I hurt you. Yeah, well, however you acknowledge it. I'm not saying be flippant about it.
Yeah.
I'm saying, well, but however you acknowledge those feelings, that's fine. But we've got to get back to where does this business want to be? Yeah. And we've clearly stated that. What are your accountabilities? We've clearly stated that, and everyone agrees to that. We have core values here, and we have numbers. And if we're not meeting those, then that gives us a way to have a clear discussion rather than, I'm sorry I hurt your feelings, but what are you going to do about that?
Well, you're not wrong. That is very true. So EOS, it sounds like everybody needs EOS. You've done business with quite a lot of people in EOS. How is that? How have they responded to you and you guys coming in there and helping the business out?
Well, we go through a process of making sure they're a fit.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll do a 90-minute meeting with the business to understand, and I'll take them through what EOS looks like. I'll take them through what implementation looks like. They'll tell me about their business, get to understand the problems in their business and whether EOS can help. But it's also about fit between me and them.
Yeah.
In other words, as much as sales is sometimes about trying to, people think it's about selling, I think it's about understanding the problem and also understanding whether there's a fit. So if the problems they're having are suited to EOS, great, let's talk about EOS. But then it's about, do I fit with them and do they fit with me? So the businesses I work with, most are doing really well. And I say most because there's a couple that didn't. They said, yeah, we want to do this. But then to the point that I made earlier about leadership teams not leaning into it,
mm-hmm.
if they don't lean into it, they're not going to get what they want out of it. So that's happened, but I probably, out of the 60-odd businesses, maybe 5 times that's happened. So the strike rate is pretty high. So those that are invested and want to do the work, they get the outcomes they want.
Oh, that's awesome.
Whatever they are. So, and those outcomes can range. Everyone says, oh, I want my business to grow. And I say, okay, well, what would your business look like if it grows? And then the truth comes out. I'd be able to go away and have a holiday with my family and not have to worry about what's going on. So that's truly what growth looks like to you. Yep. Okay. And there'll be others that say, your growth to me is just huge revenue, expansion. Awesome. Whatever growth, however you define it, fine, you'll get it. If you lean into the process, you'll get what you want out of it, but you got to want to do it. And so the outcomes range from people getting their life back to people getting, getting great profit outcomes, to a combination of both. Whatever it is, they'll get it. And that sounds a bit, that can't possibly be true. Well, my advice to anyone listening is reach out to an EOS implementer and find out. Because I will, we have a guarantee if we don't add value, don't pay for the service.
Oh, wow. That's huge. I mean,
So,
it's very confident in what you're talking about. I mean, just listening to you. So how do they decide, hey, how do they reach out to you then and say, all right, Murray, I think we may be a bit, I'd like to find out.
Yeah. So for those in the United States, I would recommend reaching out to EOS Worldwide at eosworldwide.com. You go to the website and you can find an implementer in your area. For those in Australia, they can reach out to me through my websites or LinkedIn, whatever it might be. So they can do that. But really, to some extent, I don't care what implementer they reach out to. It's just I just want to see people be better, have great businesses, live the life they want. And that's really important to me. And the one thing I'd add to all that, though, Chad, is this. People need to embrace the concept that they're in a for-profit exercise. Don't shy away from that. We're not a charity. We're not a not-for-profit. We're here to make money, and that's okay.
Yes, 100%.
And some people are a bit gun shy about saying that sort of stuff. And I say embrace it.
It took me a minute. Yeah. It took me a minute because I work for myself now. When I walked away from the corporate world, it was strange for me to have to ask people for money for doing a service for them, even though I'm doing something for you that you cannot do. Yeah. And then I'm saying this is what my time is worth and my work.
Yeah. Well, we've all been there. I mean, I enjoy my work so much. Sometimes I feel guilty about putting the invoice.
Right. I agree.
But I still put it in.
That's right. Yeah. I had to learn. My buddy just kept. One of my best friends is a doctor, and he would tell me, he's like, dude, just say what you want.
Yeah.
Like I do stuff for him for free all the time because he's helping me out. So, and we're buddies, so I return the favor. One day he's like, look, I appreciate it, everything you do, but you're not doing another thing until you tell me how much you're charging me.
Yeah.
And I'm like, dude, but we never do that. I mean, I just help you, you help me. And he's like, nope.
Yeah.
No, I believe in what you do.
Yeah.
Here it is. This is what you're getting paid. I'm like, I have to get better, don't I? He's like, you've got to get better at that.
So I kind of struggled that a little bit too when I started out on my EOS journey, these contra type deals that you want to do. And what I found is they're actually a bad idea from my perspective is if people said, oh, that's all right, Murray, you can just teach me a little bit about EOS and we'll call it quits. And I go, no, charge me for the service. And if you're going to use me, I'll charge you for the service, simply because then we've got skin in the game.
Yes.
Right? There's always a loser when it comes to contra deals, and someone's going to lose out of that because someone might not be as committed as they would be if it was actually paid work. Or alternatively, how do you measure your value in a contra deal? It's really hard, right?
It is.
My experience, and I'm not suggesting this is something everyone should do, but just my experience was I don't enter into contra deals. I just say, I'm happy for you to invoice me and I'll invoice you should you become a client of mine. And it actually makes the conversation a lot easier in my view. But, you do you, right? So
yeah, but I agree with you. I mean, I understand that point exactly. Yeah. It was difficult. Dude, I have loved talking to you. I've already kept you on here an hour. I think we were scheduled for 30, but I'm a talker and I can't help it. And I will tell you this, Murray, when I schedule this, I'm like, okay, I have zero idea what this is and what the hell we're about to talk about. All I knew when I was reading was like, okay, well, I understand business. I do know that. So I see there must be a benefit here for what he's doing. And this has been the most fascinating conversation I wish I had when I was 15 years ago, when I was still in the corporate world. This would have benefited me so much as far as running my stores and my businesses at the time. This would have been a game changer for me.
Yeah. Well, I hear that a lot. And thank you. But what I would say is to those that are listening, the best day to start changing was yesterday. And if people, I remember talking to a business. So the first day after a 90-minute meeting where I explain EOS, the first day that you work with an implementer is called a focus day. And I remember I was working, I'd done a 90-minute meeting with a business owner, and he rang me up after it. And it was about a month later, and I thought, this isn't going to land. Normally we do land them, but this one wasn't going to land. I thought, and he rang me up and he said, I'm really frustrated. These sort of things are happening and all this. And he said to me, does any of this have an expiry date? And I said, yeah, it does. It's the date that you book in your focus day. And so he did it. And then, of course, his business has changed enormously. So to your point about having to know it 15 years ago, that's okay. It happens, right? You know what you know. You work on what you've got. And the mere fact that you're curious enough to take interest in someone from the other side of the world probably says a lot more about you than you know.
Dude, I don't know about that, but I'm going to agree with you because you sound like you know exactly what you're talking about. And, and I have enjoyed this conversation. Yeah. I mean, I really, I already know a few people I'm about to personally share this with after I get it all edited and sent out. So sure. I think what you're doing is brilliant. I think it's a game changer for businesses for sure, because that defeatist mindset is out there where they're sabotaging their own businesses just by not doing the EOS model. I just think that's brilliant.
Yeah. And, I'm under no illusions. I'm also grateful for Gino Wickman, who wrote Traction, and Don Tinney, who is his first integrator, who really got EOS going out of Detroit. It's an amazing system, and I'm so grateful that they did that. And without it, there's no way I'd be doing what I'm doing today. And for those your listeners in the United States, there's 800 to 900 implementers in the United States. You can find one. If you truly want to be different, they're there. And my recommendation is reach out to them. It doesn't cost you anything to be curious and find out a bit more about it. And I'm not trying to sell people on it. I'm just saying be curious about, if you think running your business today is the way it's going to be forever, it doesn't have to be. But that's a choice that you need to make.
I agree with you. And I will definitely be the one to toot that horn, because having been on that other side of it, again, I wish I would have had something like this, or somebody to hit me across the face and go, dude, stop.
What do you
come on? Because I needed, I'm one of those people like, oh, because I always love learning new things. If someone said there's a better way, I'm like, oh, really?
Yeah.
But I had never had anybody to say, there's a better way of doing these things. I knew what I knew.
Yeah.
I will tell you this. My only thing I knew about really being successful to any degree, my dad taught me, was the 6P process. That's the only thing I knew.
Well, that's okay. That was a great starting point, though, wasn't it?
Well, it was, but there was no follow-up.
Right? Yeah.
The only thing I knew was how to treat people. Like I knew that I wanted to lead by example. Like I never asked anybody to do something I was not willing to do myself. It's just one of the things. That's just how I'm built. Like you can never say that, well, you don't. Oh yeah, I do.
Yeah.
So what I'm not asking you to do is impossible. So and it's that sort of thing, and treating people with respect and being fair to the extent that you're going to return that courtesy.
Correct.
Now, I didn't have a problem firing people who did not do those things, but it never was something you lead off with. I see a lot of managers want to have that thread of, I'm the manager and I can get rid of you anytime I want to, which never works.
That's right. Yeah, let's manage by fear. That'll be awesome.
Yeah, that just is a terrible way to do it. And one of the reasons I did walk away from the corporate world, because they're just chock full of that.
Yeah.
So I love this. So how can people get aboard EOS? How can they find out more information about this?
Yeah, so as I said, you go to the eosworldwide.com website and they can find out heaps about EOS there. Equally, if they want to reach out to me on LinkedIn, Murray Smith, Certified EOS Implementer, they can find me there. If you're going to send me a connection or something from the States, just make sure you put a comment in there that I heard you on Chad's show and FAFO before. Otherwise, I just don't know why you're reaching out to me. Like, why would you reach out to someone in Australia? And generally, I'll just go, well, I don't know who they are, so I'll just ignore it. If you put in a note that you've been listening to this show, then I'll know what you want to talk about, and I'll be able to. We'll have some level of connection, right? As opposed to just, So that's really important. And then they can also look at my own website, grit6.com.au, and there's more information on there, case studies, insights, all that sort of stuff they can check out as well. But that's probably the best way to do it, Chad.
Awesome. Murray, I appreciate your time tonight. Thank you so much. Or this morning, I guess, for you, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm in the future, Chad.
That's right. It's tomorrow. The 21st for you.
Yeah. I'm tomorrow. I can tell you what happened last night.
Good. I'll be calling you after this is over with. I need some information. But,
there's no horse racing on in the middle of the night.
Well, crap. All right. I was never good at that, so that tracks. Man, I appreciate it, Murray. Thank you so much for your time, and thanks for being a part of the podcast today.
Yeah, no problem at all. It's been great fun.
Thanks, buddy. And there you go, folks. Wow. What an informative podcast this was today. If you're a business owner, if you run a business, if you're in a leadership position, all I suggest is you give them a shot, at least study, do your due diligence, find out more about it. It could change your life. It could change your company. And who doesn't want to have a lot less stress and a lot more success, right? You've been listening to the FAFO Podcast. Facts, truth, no BS. Let's up and go. I'll see you guys next time.
Four on the floor, have a tank of gas. Does he boots on the wood, let the whiskey pass? I ain't preaching from a pulpit, I'm talking from the scar. You can dress up a lie, but it won't get far. They call it toxic when it burns.